The original Battlefront games are probably in the top 5 of the best Star Wars games ever produced. Although I may not have much experience with EA's Battlefront 1, the subsequent entry is one of my most played games. So to say it is a good game would be an understatement. However, a trait both iterations of the Battlefront games share is the lack of a third entry. Whilst I'm aware of Free Radical's cancelled Battlefront 3, I can't say the same for EA's case. As a result, I pondered, especially while showering, what a potential Battlefront 3 could be like, and I'm here to share my concept, my opinion of it. You are free to disagree if you wish. After all, we're all entitled to our opinions, and I wish you all respect that. Anyways, I'm Corrosive Cereals, and let's get to the meat of the video. First, I want to talk about core gameplay. I don't think it's contentious to say that EA's Battlefront 2 has probably the best general gameplay. The pacing and the shooting and all of that is the best and most modern version. So something like that will be great. As for the health and ammo system, I would argue that regenerating health and unlimited ammo with cooldowns are perhaps better for a modern audience compared to the old system with gonk and health droids. Now, I don't hate the old system, but it has aged, and besides the moment gameplay is also peak in the newer Battlefront game. Most modern gamers probably don't want to sit around those droids anyway. Heck, I don't think most people survive long enough, except maybe for the snipers, for them to be of use. The ability system, quote unquote, is also more intuitive than having to change each primary and secondary in game, which is rather obvious if you had played the Saga mod for the original Battlefront 2, where there are just too many primaries and secondaries for the engineer class to the point of swapping between becomes tedious and slow. Thus, the best way to use grenades and secondaries is through set system. I'll touch upon the star card system later. Also, the unlimited sprint but limited dodges are also included. I cannot express how much I love that over the old stamina mechanic. Next, I want to talk about classes and vehicles. It wouldn't be a Battlefront game without classes. Sorry, EA Front 1. However, instead of the officer class being one of the 4 main classes, the seat should be given to the original and iconic engineer. Now, you might think it's obsolete because the droids no longer exist, but as shown by the Battlefield games, you don't need them. We have the vehicles for that case. Yes, no more battle points to unlock the vehicles. They're going to be part of the map, and players should be able to hop in and out of them, just like in the old Battlefront games and in the Battlefield games. That battle points being used for the vehicles is just so dumb. Speaking of which, the battle points, or at least something akin to that, is going to be kept for reinforcements and heroes specifically. I won't lie, to this day I haven't the slightest clue how the old point system works. EA's battle points are just superior. Afterwards, the special classes and heroes, as mentioned before, the officer is removed from the default 4 and is then relegated to the reinforcement classes with the infiltrator, enforcer, and rocketeer. Perhaps more similar to the original officer class from the OG games, although that could potentially result in a large pool of reinforcement classes, which can add to the complexity of the game. If you take into account that some of the best mods for EA's BF2 include overhauls, which adds a wide range of reinforcements, it is safe to say people obviously want that. Now, there are some personal desires, and I have compiled a list of set special classes and reinforcements that I thought of are the Jet Trooper, the Arc Trooper, the Clone Commando, the Assassin clones from the Episode 3 games, and some kind of officer class for the Republic, the B2 Super Battle Droid, both the regular and the flying variant, the Droideka, Commando Droid, Magna Guard with their iconic staffs, and OOM9 for the CIS, the Death Troopers, Dark Troopers, Imperial Officers, Purge Troopers, Royal Guards, and maybe the ISB agent plus the Rocket Trooper, and probably some more extended universe stuff for the Empire. The bottom spy, Wookiee warrior, Ewok, cause why not? Jet Trooper again, in addition to the other extended universe characters for the Rebels. For the First Order and the Resistance, just bring the EA ones and some from movies and comics because I'm not well versed in the sequel trilogy much. Maybe the Knights of Ren and Snoke's cards. Another aspect of EA Front 2 that I should mention is, of course, the different weapons for each class. Similar to the Battlefield games, it opens up more gameplay variety. Nevertheless, the glaring issue is, as seen in the current game, will be the obvious gap between new and old players. But that's just a price to pay for this kind of stuff. Having to unlock them is also better for grinding / replayability. Skins akin to the current Battlefront is also a good idea, in addition to the level system, which will be elaborated on later too. Heroes should function pretty identically to EA's Battlefront 2, the least clunkiest and awkward version. Each map should allow different heroes of the same era, plus at maximum 3 to 4. I cannot express how fun it is to play as heroes in there than with any other game, especially the older ones. New heroes like Ahsoka and Padme should also be added. Oh, how could I forget? Bring an IG-88. He's so cool looking. Why is he not part of the mainline games yet? I mean, he did appear in Elite and Renegade Squadron. Why not in the main games? Given that I already talked about specific classes, it's only fair to mention heroes and villains too. For the prequel era, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Yoda, Padme, Ahsoka, Captain Rex / Commander Cody, Grievous, Dooku, Maul, Ventress, Jango Fett, Cad Bane, Savage Opress. For the original trilogy era, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewbacca, Lando, Ben Kenobi, Vader, Palpatine, Boba, IG-88, Dengar, Grand Inquisitor maybe? Maul again maybe also. For the sequel era, Rey, Finn, Chewie, Poe, Old Luke, Kylo, Snoke, Palpatine again I guess, Phasma, Commander Pi, and the BB droids too. Vehicles, well, I don't need to say much. Include them on the map itself, let people hop in and out anytime, let engineers repair and maybe even hack them to steal, and make sure the iconic vehicles are part of the roster, plus extended universe ones too, like the OG games. Maps. Maps are a crucial element of any multiplayer game. To give you the gist of my idea is that the maps should be big, specifically the ones that allow combined arms warfare, which may seem strange to say, but I find that EA's maps are a bit too close and tight compared to the older ones. Aircrafts feel strange to fight with, like as if the maps weren't built for it. Moreover, the combat feels isolated from the ground warfare, much more than the old ones. This is just my opinion, though. Feel free to disagree. Still, smaller CQB maps are still welcome. Maps / planets that I feel should be crucial are Geonosis, Naboo, Camino, Coruscant, Kashyyyk, Mustafar, Megiddo, Lucia, Umbara, Tatooine, Hoth, Endor, Bespin, Yavin, Death Star 2, Solus, Jabba's Palace, Scarif, Agent Claws, Crate, Jakku, Starkiller Base, Takodana, and that one urban place in the Rise of Skywalker. Exegol, maybe too? Hell, what about on top of Star Destroyers too? That would be a cool set piece. I forgot to say this before, but make some of the maps more interesting. Like EA's Geonosis is just so boring. Kashyyyk, Hoth, and many more as well. The Conquest variants, anyway. Bespin's cool, but no Conquest version, so need to rectify that. The newer Conquest maps are just so stale in contrast to the older ones, which have more flavor and soul. Like comparing old Hoth and new Hoth, the old one has two AT-ATs, several AT-STs, the hangar in which you can enter, the generators, as well as tunnels. Meanwhile, the new Conquest, oh wait, no, Supremacy, is just a big open field with the hangar as more of a background. Addendum. Fighting inside the Supremacy or Executioner would be fire as frick. Now we'll talk about the actual game modes. Let's start off with Conquest, perhaps the most iconic game mode of Battlefront, which was taken straight from Battlefield. It should be a part of the game at day one. In fact, all the things referred to here also apply. But with modern gaming, that might be unrealistic. Just keep the game as it is in the original games with reinforcement numbers that plummet, with more command posts that you control. This is especially more tense in single player as the reduced number of bots makes every death count much more than before, with a clutch being more practical. It is a tried and true game mode that shall be kept the same. In addition, native species should return, i.e., Geonosians on Geonosis, Ewoks on Endor, and neutral Jawas on Tatooine. Now, the next one I want to get to is Supremacy. This is simply a variant of the standard Conquest mode, which follows DICE's rising ticket or percentile count in contrast to the falling reinforcement count of the original. Additionally, in order to further differentiate it and bring back an old idea, this is where the ground-space combat of the OG Battlefront 3 takes place. It could use elements from that game and Battlefield 2142's Titan mode as a base, allowing for a true and innovative multiplayer experience. I guess it sounds similar to the already present Supremacy mode, but instead of cutscenes taking us to the capital ships, the boarding would be a manual and optional in-game choice that players can make, which can already be seen in Elite Squadron. Essentially, in that game, boarding is optional. You don't have to do it to win like how it is in classic Battlefront 2 Space Battle. It's just super rewarding to do so. I think if you want to make it more like Titan mode, it could be tweaked further to become closer to it, but for me, I'd prefer the Battlefront 3 version over Titan. This mode prioritizes the actual command post instead of the kills themselves, so to speak. As a result, the posts have even more prominence than in the original game. There probably would be pilotable ion cannons to weaken the shields and orbital bombardments to help the ground war with the ships being able to move by officer. Since both follow the similar principles and mechanics, having these two variants shouldn't be impossible. The standard conquest could be specific to instant action or galactic conquest if needed, both conquests, if available online, and supremacy should have some bots thrown in like in the latest Battlefront. However, if native species are added online, instead of friendly AI rebels, what if they were replaced with Ewoks on Endor, for example? While the Imperials keep their stormtrooper bots. That might seem like a balancing problem, but considering the bots online are nowhere near as threat as opposed to what they could be offline, it really shouldn't be an issue. A thing that I forgot to mention is to make all Supremacy and Conquest matches being able to play on any era. And since this mode follows the same gameplay style across the eras with more sandboxy elements, it theoretically should be possible. Galactic Assault. In spite of the fact that this game mode does have some flaws, it is a very entertaining game mode, which is the opposite to the open and more dynamic game mode of Conquest. I believe that merging this and Battle Station from Battlefront 1 would create the best objective-based game mode that Star Wars multiplayer games could provide. Imagine fighting in the skies of Camino before, after a successful CI's attempt, Trident transport crafts are launched down to the city where the second phase would begin. And the final phase is charging to the heart of Camino to destroy crucial infrastructure. We could follow the typical three phases thing while making it more theatrical and varied, mixing starfighters and ground warfare. This would also allow starfighters to shine more and have more importance. As I had said before, they just feel too disparate from the important battle. Of course, not all maps require a starfighter section, but it would be much appreciated if they are, as it would resemble the ground-space combat of Free Radical's Battlefront 3, but in a more objective and linear form. Hell, why not reverse the Camino idea for some maps? Fight on the ground, then go above. Basically, for most, or at least half of the maps, there are three phases. Two are infantry focused and on the ground, while one is exclusively in the air. It could go like space, ground, 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 space, ground, or ground, ground, space. There is so much potential in this mode that isn't just exclusively ground warfare. Something that feels like an operation Anyhow, with larger scale game modes out of the way, let's move on to the smaller modes. I think Blast, Drop Zone, Cargo, Strike, and Extraction will be nice appetizers. Certainly not the main course, but good side dishes to fill your stomach. Ewok Hunt is a really good and fun mode. The original is leagues below this, which makes me ponder what kind of other hunt variations could be made. I don't think people would oppose a hunt mode on Geonosis with Geonosians versus clones in a style akin to Ewok Hunt, although the balancing might be an issue. Heroes versus villains is a no-brainer, but probably with variants such as 2v2, 4v4, 8v8, you get the idea. Standard kill until your team either wins or loses. With the combined armed nature of the new Galactic Assault, a lone starfighter assault might feel redundant somewhat. A starfighter deathmatch would be nice. A remake of the space assault from the original Battlefront 2 will be even nicer and help differentiate it from the objective style starfighter combat of Galactic Assault. Hero Starfighters mode is serviceable. The next I want to talk about is co-op mode. Basically just keep the co-op mode from the new game and add a refined version of the survival mode from EA Front 1, using the assets available for co-op to make the attack and defend modes more difficult with the ability to choose different difficulties with proportional rewards, because I think the current one is just too easy. Specifically making the AI smarter rather than turning them into aimbots, because I loathe that kind of AI design. Like make them be able to strafe or roll more frequently, try ambushes, etc. As for the survival mode, I'll touch upon that in a separate video. Now let's talk about instant action. And by talk about, I mean, what is there to talk about? Just make offline versions of the game modes I already mentioned before, and allow customizability, of course. You may think that might be a difficult task, which they mostly are. I'm not a programmer, but a mod for EA Front 2 called Instant Action Overhauls already does that, and it's pretty great. Sure, it isn't perfect, nothing is, but that mod already shows that it is possible. For the new Galactic Assault mode, all they gotta do is program the AI to attack the objectives, since Starfighter AI is already available in the base game since launch, I believe. I think it's about time a fan favorite mode comes back from the pile of forgotten and neglected game mode list. Galactic Conquest, which should be playable in solo or co-op, either split screen or online. It will take aspects from the OG Galactic Conquest from Battlefront 2, modernizing it a bit and maybe add more features like being able to fortify planets with auto turrets instead of it being one-time use abilities at any battle. Kind of like Empire of War. You're goated if you know that game. So in that game, Conquest mode allows you to place bases and troops on the ground, taking more ideas from there. What if we could reinforce the post with turrets or some kind of droid that can shoot more tickets, reinforcements, etc. To summarize, why not make it so that the defensive abilities are akin to those bases and be applicable to conquered planets, whilst the offensive ones are applicable to attacks on other planets only? Purchasing specific heroes should also provide benefits, maybe cheaper troops and whatnot. And using set heroes in battle could lose those benefits and require you to buy them again, provided that they have been killed in that battle. You know what? Just port over any features from Empire War that are compatible with the FPS/board game nature of Battlefront. As for the actual gameplay within Galactic Conquest, well, here is where things get spicy. So with the fact that all game modes will be able to be played in instant action with bots, that means we can utilize them in Galactic Conquest as well. Here's my rough idea of how things will go. If both you and your enemy's capital ships are on a singular planet, supremacy will ensue with both ground and space combat occurring. However, if the player wishes to, he could engage in a purely space battle with the capital ship, as like the OG Battlefront 2, and then engage in ground warfare, which will be different. You see, with Galactic Assault being more objective oriented, I find it more fitting when doing ground battles, especially when only one capital ship is present on the planet, which is from the opposing faction, than the one who controls the planet. And given that the factions and maps are from the same era, Galactic Assault will occur. If the factions and maps are not from the same era, then a regular conquest match will begin. Furthermore, if either factions decide to infiltrate the other planet for intel, extraction or strike will occur. This in turn keeps gameplay fresh in the Galactic Conquest, so it is harder to become stale. To finally end this section, let's talk about a campaign mode that is not like EA's literally campaign. I think a good way to include all three eras is to make it like war stories from Battlefield 1. This time, though, is exclusively from the Separatist, Empire, and First Order side of the story. Controversial, I know. It's just that we already have enough of the Resistance and Rebel side, and for the Clone Wars, well, we have an entire show dedicated to the Republic side already, so it's only fair the CIS would get a turn. Perhaps a story from the perspective of a commando droid. It could show the droid's emotions and beliefs more, such as in Jedi Survivor, eventually gaining sentience and breaking free from the CIS. The POV of a stormtrooper from the Empire and First Order could be interesting as well, as we get more insight into their organizational structure, beliefs, and rules and such. We don't really get many views from the villain side, which is a shame because it's not like we're playing as an actual horrific faction from real life. We should be able to see from the special forces side of each faction without the switching side BS. New maps, objectives, stealth mechanics, you name it, any kind of objective that is at least unique from the main multiplayer mode. This isn't a full-blown campaign concept breakdown, but if you want them, I can try to construct one. Though the idea of a commando droid being in all three eras more probable than a clone anyway would be a neat and frankly awesome idea. I mean, look at ND5 from Star Wars Outlaws. I saw comments wanted to play as him, and it will make more sense logically too. They can be repaired, can tank more damage than any regular organic soldier, be it the elite clones of the Republic or the dirtier rebels of the Rebellion. I mean, look at the Rishi Moon episode from the Clone Wars. They tanked several blaster shots to the chest. Actually, I might make an entire video dedicated to a hypothetical droid campaign, so be on the lookout for that. For now, this is satisfactory. This section is a hodgepodge of random ideas thrown in. It could be UI, some stuff I forgot to mention in the prior sections, or anything really. I did mention a star card as a system, didn't I? Yeah, so I suppose my idea is just perks, like in DVD, in place of the passive star cards. Maybe it could be like the currency system in Renegade Squadron, where you have a limited amount of points in total to spend on perks and loadouts. Speaking of loadouts, it would be nice to have different guns for each class as in EA Front 2, just maybe make it so it's not too broken. I have mentioned this before, but since I already written it into the script, might as well. If you play as a specialist in the newer Battlefront, you know how much of a difference the beginner sniper is from the NT-242. To be honest, EA's UI is ugly to say the least. Why do we have rotating guns as the symbol for co-op and single player? I like the idea of an animated symbol, so we can keep that aspect. Regardless, I think we should bring back the OG style UI. You know what I'm talking about. The original Battlefront 1 UI. It's probably the best of the entire series. God, if we had something like that again, it would be peak. I guess I'll elaborate further on the perk slash currency system. I would say that you're allowed to pick 2 of many perks to use for each default class, but 3 for the special classes and heroes. The reason I restrict the default classes to 2 is because you'll be allowed to customize your secondary and equipment. Think of the auto turrets of the officer or the personal shield of the specialist. If this seems too overpowered, it could be 1 perk per class, but with full customizability for the secondary, grenade, and equipment slot. Actually, I think I dig that version more. As for the reinforcements slash special classes, I prefer them to retain their original weaponry, but maybe a bit more limited selection of items. With 1 less perk could work too. Heroes will stick with their normal weapons and abilities. The last thing I want to waffle about is skins. If we're talking realistically, the skins might be part of microtransactions. Modern gaming. But considering the things I listed are already improbable, let's just go full gear and just make it so that the skins are not monetized and can be grinded for. For the basic troopers, variants from all across the franchise should be brought in. All the popular and well-known legions for the clones, the original OM versions, all the versions we see on the Clone Wars, yes, including the firefighter B1s, should be available for the droids. I'm not too familiar with Rebels and sequel trilogy lore much, but include them too, I guess. Empire, for another example, could get the various Dark Trooper phases for their 1 Dark Trooper class. Shock and Shadow Troopers could be playable classes or just skins as well. I think that should conclude the general idea I have for Star Wars Battlefront 3. Is it unrealistic? Of course it is. Nonetheless, considering that getting Battlefront 3 seems to be as possible as getting a Half-Life 3 or a Left 4 Dead 3, we can at least dream. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the concept video. I hope you guys enjoy my first video and be sure to like and subscribe as I'm planning to drop more concept videos and is also planning to branch out to other video types such as mods or in other franchises like in Halo. Thanks for watching.